Hello, welcome to 24 Recapped. In this video I will tell a psychopath movie, called Chained. I remind you, this video will contain a lot of spoilers. The film starts with a family going to the cinema, but the father just drops them off, because he has a lot of work to do, and he can't pick them up, so the father asks them to take a taxi home. After watching the movie, the son and mother went home by taxi. At first there was nothing suspicious, while telling the taxi driver his home address, but one time the driver turned in the wrong direction, and did not take them to their destination. The mother sensed that something was wrong and started to panic, so she tried to open the door, but the driver locked it. The taxi driver then stopped at a deserted place, and beat the mother until she passed out. Then they were taken to the taxi driver's house, and the mother was immediately pulled and kept away from her child. The mother told her son to cover his ears when he heard a scream to keep him calm. The young child could not do anything, and only cried until peeing in his pants, because he was so scared. The child was also dragged by the psychopath taxi driver, and said that his mother was gone forever, and would not take care of him anymore, hearing that the little boy just cried and missed his mother. The next day the little boy was told that the psychopath's name was Bob. Bob ordered the boy to obey his orders without exception, assigned to clean the house of the former murder. The little boy also has to prepare breakfast, while himself is not allowed to eat anything without orders. If he wants to eat, he can only enjoy the leftovers on Bob's plate. For his additional task, the child must collect missing persons information from the newspaper and paste it into book. At the end of the explanation, Bob says that he will call the little boy as Rabbit. When in the morning, Rabbit was told to clean Bob's house, and only had breakfast with leftover pizza on Bob's plate. At that time Rabbit intended to escape from this psychopath's house. Rabbit tried to escape through the ceiling. But apparently Bob had suspected Rabbit's behavior, and was waiting for him outside the house. When on the roof, Bob deliberately let Rabbit scream as he pleased, so Rabbit knew that no one would help him, because Bob's house had no neighbors and was isolated. As a result of trying to escape, Bob's legs were tied by chains. So that Rabbit doesn't try to run away again, Bob then installs CCTV in his house. Every day Bob kidnaps women just to fulfill his desires. After that the victims will be killed by Bob, and the former evil deeds done by Bob are Rabbit's job to clean up. It became a routine for Rabbit for 20 years, where every day Rabbit witnessed the evil things Bob did. When Bob gets a male passenger, namely a father and a son, Bob heard that the child was being scolded by his own father. At that time Bob's expression looked depressed and uncomfortable hearing the shouts. Arriving at the house, Bob still looks depressed and asks Rabbit. Bob asks what good things his father did when he was a child, but Rabbit himself could not answer Bob's question. Then Bob gave a book on human anatomy for Rabbit to study. Bob feels that currently Rabbit is his own son, and to fill his spare time, Bob says he'd better learn about the anatomy of the human body. If he has mastered what is in the book, Bob promises to release him, but Rabbit only asked to meet again with his father. Bob immediately showed a photo of his father, who already has a new wife. In other words, currently Rabbit only has Bob as his family. Every day Bob did kidnapping as his routine, while Rabbit was busy learning about human anatomy. Bob, who already considers Rabbit as his son, and to test his learning abilities, Bob always asks Rabbit about anatomy. From childhood until now, Rabbit always spends his life watching what Bob has done to his victims, and to entertain himself Bob always invites Rabbit to play magic cards. A psychopath's card game is also different from the normal game, where they both have to guess the identity of the victim kidnapping, in the form of the name, age, and character of the victim. One night, Bob, who was sleeping, had a dream about his past. In that dream, Bob's father was seen, who always tortured his younger brother and also Bob. As an older brother, Bob has always been the object of his father's anger. Even Bob was also told to sleep with his own mother. The incident when Bob was a child made him traumatized and did not have social relations with anyone. because of his past. Maybe the reason Bob always targeted women as victims of his kidnapping and avoiding a man. The next day Bob deliberately kidnapped a prostitute woman to be used as a final test for Rabbit. Bob killed the drunk woman by cutting her neck. Then he asked Rabbit which part he just injured. Rabbit quickly replied that the knife hit the carotid artery. Heard the answer, Bob was happy with the results of his study. Then Rabbit was asked to choose a girl from the school yearbook. Bob wanted Rabbit to feel what he felt for the first time, but Rabbit refused Bob's orders, because Bob would immediately kill that choice. Bob, who was angry and saw the frightened Rabbit, felt sorry for him and let go of the chains on his legs. After that, Rabbit was again forced to choose a girl from the yearbook. Rabbit, who continued to refuse, was finally forced by Bob to choose a woman, with Rabbit's hand being forced to choose. Finally, an 18-year-old girl named Angie would become the first victim of Rabbit. Bob immediately kidnapped Angie and told Rabbit to see the girl of his choice. Bob said that this was training for Rabbit, to make Bob believe in him. Bob then sent Rabbit to the room and told Rabbit to sleep with Angie. If Rabbit didn't do it, then Bob would kill Angie himself. Then Rabbit was left alone with Angie in the room. Rabbit said to Angie that he didn't want to kill Angie at all, because Angie is a victim. Hearing Rabbit's words, Angie started to like him and offered to sleep with her. But Rabbit didn't want anything from Angie. Even so, Angie still tried to seduce Rabbit. When he was about to do something, Bob suddenly opened the door and shouted. At that time, Rabbit stabbed Angie in the stomach, because Rabbit knew that was what Bob wanted to see. After that, Rabbit dragged Angie's body into a secret room to be buried. Then Rabbit went to Bob and said he wanted to hunt another woman. The next day, Bob was seen preparing to hunt with Rabbit. Bob also bought a new chair, which was placed next to his chair to sit together with Rabbit. After that, Rabbit looked neat, so he didn't look suspicious. Rabbit looked again at the taxi that had kidnapped him and his mother, and remembered what had happened to them at that time. Arriving in town, Rabbit was told to choose the type of victim he wanted, but none of the women caught Rabbit's attention. Seeing a police car passing in front of him, Bob immediately pulled over to the side of the road. Rabbit was told to hide so as not to be seen by the police. Bob accidentally saw a reflection in the mirror and realized that Rabbit had written the word help on the side of his car. Due to Rabbit's actions, Bob became distrustful of Rabbit and returned to his house. Rabbit wrote a word of help when he pretended to see the back seat. Angie wasn't really dead either. Rabbit stabbed Angie in a non-vital part. Rabbit also asked Angie to pretend to be dead. Besides that, Rabbit also gave Angie a flashlight and a knife when Angie was buried in. Arriving at the house, Bob, who was angry and did not believe in Rabbit, immediately punched him until he passed out and was about to open Angie's grave. Rabbit woke up after hearing Bob scream and tried to get into the house. When Bob opens Angie's grave, Bob is surprised by the glare of the flashlight, and Angie directly cuts Bob's Achilles tendon with a knife, causing Bob to be in pain and difficult to stand. At that moment, Rabbit, who had managed to get into the house, immediately ran to Bob and killed him in the carotid artery. Angie, who looked so weak, could only see it all. Then Angie, who was saved by Rabbit, was seen sleeping, while Bob, who had been killed by Rabbit, was buried in a secret room. After all that, Rabbit visits his dad's house named Brad, and it's true what Bob says, that his dad has a new family and doesn't remember Rabbit, who has been missing for 20 years. Rabbit also said that he was his son named Tim. When he found out Tim was still alive, he immediately hugged him tightly. Tim was invited into the house until finally Rabbit gave a letter to his father. The letter contained his father's secret, who ordered his brother named Bob to kidnap Rabbit and his wife after watching a movie and give money to Bob. It turned out that for 20 years, the brain behind the kidnapping and murder was his own father. That's why his father told Rabbit and his mother to take a taxi home. It was all his father's plan to find another woman. Brad, new wife, the one holding the letter, opened it and found a photo of Rabbit's mother and Rabbit, and the letter and a check which will be cashed into money as Rabbit said. After everything was revealed, Brad also showed his true self and slapped Rebit many times. At that time his wife immediately ran to stop Brad, but Brad also abused his wife. Rebit, who did not like to see women being tortured, immediately beat his father in the head to death. Brad's wife, who saw that, also helped Rebit. She let Rebit go and then called the police, with the excuse that her husband was killed by a group of people who broke into her house. After that, the film ends with Rebit being shown returning to Bob's house and living with Angie, who has fallen in love with him. That's all for this movie. Thank you for watching. See you and look forward to the next video.